There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Wow, that's Maya Angelou. I'm Robyn Hatcher, and welcome to Quotation Corner, where I unpack some of my favorite quotations and talk about how they're relevant to me, to you, and to communication. Wow. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. What does that mean to you? How many of you are walking around with an untold story inside of you? Now, I'm not talking, it doesn't have to be this tragic story all the time. You know, we all have stories, and a lot of times we do get confused by the fact that when people are talking about untold stories, we're talking about trauma and tragedy and things like that. But I believe that we all have untold stories inside of us that we just think are not important enough to talk about. What is your untold story, and how can you make it important? How can you bring it out in the conversation, in the communication? When I work with people on communication and presentation skills and their personal brand, I really dig deep to find out what your signature story is. What is your brand story? Because those are the stories that make you relatable. They make you authentic. They connect you to your why, to your brand, to what it is that sets you apart, and they are important. And often we overlook them. We think, okay, I just do this because I do this. I'll never forget, and she is still in my universe, but I was at an event once. I was giving a talk on personal branding. And one of the things I like to share with people when they're looking for their brand story is I like to ask them what they wanted to do when they were 8 years old, or who they were at 8 years old. And this one woman who was an environmental scientist all of a sudden had this aha moment. When she was 8 years old, she loved playing in the dirt. Who knew? You know, she loved playing in the dirt, and then she became an environmental scientist. That's a story that needs to be told. And a lot of times we don't realize that we're sitting on a story that needs to be told until someone digs and pulls it out of you. And yes, it may not feel tragic. It may not feel like this cathartic thing that Maya Angelou talks about all the time and Oprah talks about all the time. It may not look like that, but it's still your story. And it's a story that is going to be helpful, not only to the people that are listening to it, but to you for getting it out and sharing it and connecting that story with who you are today. So I feel like it's so important to bring out your untold stories. And if you need help with that, hit me up. But what does that quote mean to you? What does that quote mean to you? Look at it and let me know in the comments how you would interpret that quote, or how you feel about your untold story. Thanks. I'll see you next time on Quotation Corner.